Hey, really appreciate you joining us here in the morning. Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio, and would invite you to join us a week from tomorrow at Terry's Cafe in Meridian. We're very excited to have our first unity breakfast before the Republicans take to the state capitol and have a unity rally. And we've invited all the candidates. We hope they attend, win, lose, or draw. We would love to see you there. Terry's Cafe, a really wonderful place. Want to thank the folks at Terry's for allowing us to broadcast there. Now, tomorrow we're going to be at St. Ignatius School in Meridian, Idaho, and we look forward to talking to the folks there, thanks to our friends at CapEd Credit Union, Team Mazda Subaru, and Grade Power Learning. Frank King is MIA, which is, well, better for you because that gives us more quality time together to take your phone calls on a variety of issues. Now, we've been talking about the governor's race, and it's funny. You talk to the progressives, you talk to the young libs, and they seem to be excited about this Paulette Jordan. People think that she could do very well. I just don't see anybody beating A.J. Belukoff, considering the challenge that he gave Governor Otter the last time. The governor, some would say, where he was at the peak of his appeal, his popularity, coming off the recession. That was the beginning of the boom, and A.J. came within 15 of him. I can't see anybody beating A.J. considering his stronghold here in the city of Boise. That is one topic. Number two, obviously the Iran nuclear deal. If you agree with that, we'll get your thoughts. I think it's a great deal, and we'll do that. But the issue that I really want to discuss with you at 580-5436, 580-KIDO is this one.
For 105 years, Mormon boys have made up the largest block of dues-paying Boy Scout members, but starting in 2020, they'll be gone. The Mormon Church saying it'll be placing its remaining 425,000 boys in a program it's developing. This coming just days after the Boy Scouts welcomed girls and 3 years after gay troop leaders got the green light, something opposed by the church, which teaches that being in a homosexual relationship is a sin. The church giving its increasingly global membership as the reason for severing ties. More than half of its members live outside the U.S. and Canada. Lillian Wu, Fox News.
No, KIDO Talk Radio. You notice how Lillian said it's a sin. Nice inflection there, Lillian. So here we are. Do you agree with the decision by the LDS to give the Scouts the boot? And you have to wonder really what the Boy Scouts are these days. And I have the utmost respect for people in Scouts today and people that have been Scouts. A tough time when you think of the direction of the national church, and then you have the LDS, or the national group, and then you have the LDS church saying, we're out of here. Let's go to the phones, and we go to Michael Miniger. Miniger's Auto Body at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Michael.
How are you, Mr. Miller?
Well, nice of you to join us here in Drive Over Country.
Well, you know, it's just hard. I'm a busy guy, Kevin. Busy. So, no, I'm glad. I went to the gym a little early, so I got an extra 20 out of 20 minutes, and so I thought, I wonder what Kevin's talking about. And I was a Boy Scout. What's the next one after Boy Scouts? You went from the blue uniform to green.
Yeah, you went to, what is it, Webelos, Cub Scouts, and Boy Scouts.
Okay, that's what it was. Boy Scouts. So I went from Cub Scouts to Boy Scouts. I can't imagine, of course, it was many, many years ago that I did this, and I look back on that as it was huge in my life. It was, I came from a camping family. We boated a lot, as you know, and all that. So for us to be able to learn about whittling and, you know, getting our badges along the way, and I always look forward to it. I can't imagine doing it with girls. And it just doesn't jive with what I remember. And as far as the LDS Church, and I have to be careful here because I'm not LDS, and I don't agree with everything, but I will say this about the LDS Church. Number one, family is number one. Number two, they're a conservative organization, and I can see them having a crap fit over this because it totally undermines. So I look at this, and this is right off the cuff, Kevin. They don't involve themselves in a lot of non-LDS stuff, okay? So you think about this, the Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts have always been it's not strictly LDS, right? Like it puts LDS children with other children of other beliefs. And there's not a lot, and I hope I don't get in any trouble for this, but there's not a lot that the LDS parents endorse outside of the church. Does that make sense? So this was one thing that they endorsed with other religions, other religious beliefs, or non-religious beliefs for that matter. So I can absolutely see them, which is kind of sad, having to go to another form or another curriculum to help raise their young men. And I'm sad for them. I think it's a sad day in America when this happened. I totally disagree with him.
Mike Miniger, we always agree with you. We appreciate you.
Okay, man. That's my take. Thanks.
Thank you. Michael Miniger, Miniger's Auto Body. They're on Chinden. You know, I gave this guy such a big welcome. I'm coughing now because it's a little stressful having him on. He made the daily promo, and he joins us now. Frank King, the comedian from Oregon. Good morning.
I'm sorry I'm late. I was busy with the Boy Scouts, making arrangements to allow Girl Scouts or making Girl Scouts. And I lost track of time.
The pride of Eugene, Oregon joins us.
That's correct. The People's Republic of Eugene, my friend. And by the way, I think Girl Scouts, girls and Boy Scouts, and in the same troop, I don't see. I mean, I work with the Girls and Boys Clubs, and they seem to get along pretty well. Matter of fact, when they get a little older, they get along too well, Kevin.
This is what I love about you, Frank. You have these unsolicited opinions that get the phones blown up.
I really think, I think I don't see a problem with the girls being in the troop. I don't, you put them in different tents. I mean, I'm not saying they should bunk together, for goodness sakes, at that age.
Is there anything sacred about being a man anymore?
No, not a bit. They should actually have a birth control merit badge. They should show how it's how to use the various forms of birth control.
Frank,
I just did that for you to light the phones up, Kevin.
Yes,
you know that.
Yes, this is not Eugene. This is God-fearing Idaho. This is where America used to be.
Correct.
Yes.
I'll listen to you. And I am a bit of a liberal. So not here though. Dear God, I'm very much middle of the road in Eugene.
Before we begin, I'm so tempted to just talk to you about Second Amendment issues, but because that does blow up the phones. This is an issue that continues to get a lot of awareness. You're a champion of this, of preventing suicides. We keep hearing about this, particularly in the military, particularly with young people. The idea of the problems becoming so overwhelming. I lost my best friend from high school to it many, many years ago. And yet we still don't talk about it, and this problem continues to grow.
Yeah, and I think the problem is, by the way, is that we don't talk about it. As a show, I'm a comedian as well for your listeners. I was down in San Diego on the USS Midway. It's an amazing museum, 1.5 million visitors a year on the Midway. And I did a banquet for the docents, and there's a guy sitting across the table from me. And I said, what do you do besides comedy? I said, well, I'm a public speaker. What do you talk about, depression, suicide? Well, he took me aside. I went to the bathroom. Came to the bathroom, took me aside outside the bathroom and said, I'm 69 years old. I have the same conditions you do, major depressive disorder, chronic suicidality, which means suicide's always on the menu for either one of us. He goes, and I've never told anyone, including my therapist, because I was afraid if I told him that I had this chronic suicidality problem, he would put me in a 3-day involuntary hold. So you're the first person I've ever told that I have those thoughts. And I think that's a big part of the problem, Kevin, is people don't want to, for a variety of reasons, talk about it. And my job is essentially to give people permission to give voice to those feelings.
Indeed. When we talk about this, Frank, you can use humor to deal with it, but as you've chronicled here at KIDO Talk Radio, you've had your own struggles. What do you say to people that are depressed but think they can handle it?
Well, depends on how to here's how I start the conversation, Kevin. 2 questions. If they go, look, I'm really depressed, what I say is, okay, do you want my perspective, or do you want me to just listen? Because a lot of times, they really don't want a lot of you shoulds. They just want somebody that will listen and nod along and go, that's awful, I can't believe. Now, if they ask for my perspective, then a series of questions. Have you been evaluated? Are you taking medication? Have you tried medication? Did it work? Have you had the DNA test to match your DNA with the best medication possible for that, that condition? Is it running your family? Of course, the last question is always, are you having thoughts of suicide? Again, there's a school of thought you should never mention the S word in front of somebody who is depressed, because I love this, Kevin. It would give them the idea. Trust me. And it's probably crossed their mind. So yeah, when I have a conversation like that, and I think it's important if somebody's depressed to have a chat with a peer, somebody else who battles mental illness, because neuronormal people are very solution oriented. They're going to make a lot of suggestions about what you should do, whereas a person who is living with a mental illness or two is more likely to be non-judgmental, to listen carefully, and then again let them vent, and then ask the questions I mentioned earlier. Just go through that series of questions to make sure they're not closing in on a crisis.
Frank King, comedian, joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. What do you make of people that seemingly have everything and yet they commit suicide?
I have been the most wretchedly depressed, Kevin, when things were going the best for me. I can remember living in San Diego, the city I love. The condo we were living in was paid for, had a lot of bookings, had money in the bank. I'm married to a lovely woman, had a great life, and I was wretchedly depressed. So for a lot of people, depression is not situational. It's chemistry, it's wiring, it's family history. Now, for some people, if there's been a great tragedy, it can be very situational. Or they may have been living with depression for a long time, and the situation triggers it, brings it to the surface. So it's like a three-legged stool. It could be situational. It can be situational and it kicked off something they were already suffering, or it could just be, in their system that's the way they're wired. That's the way I'm wired. It has nothing to do, but there are triggers. And I tell people who are depressed, well, what's your trigger? I didn't know I had triggers until a friend of mine who'd been battling it for years said, look, next time you get depressed, think back about 24 hours. And then think about the last couple times you got depressed and see if there isn't a common element. Like something happened or something's going on each time, so I know what a couple of my triggers are now, which is very comforting to know I'm not just a victim of my wiring and chemistry. It's not some random, flat spot in my personality that every now and then, the wheel rolls around to that.
Our great friend, comedian Frank King, joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. Finally, Big Frank, your thoughts on people listening right now, one-on-one. What would you say to them that are having a tough time?
Well, I would say if you are having thoughts of suicide, call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline. If you are under the age of 25, I would say text the word HI, H-I, to 741-741. Because, Kevin, oftentimes younger people are more forthcoming if they're texting than if they are talking on the phone. And the people on the other end of that text line are people their age. So you're dealing with peers. If you have a family member who is living with one of these mental illnesses, there's an outfit called NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness. I'm sure there's a chapter near you guys, either county or state chapter, and they've got programs for families. I've got a friend who had a son who's schizophrenic or schizoaffective, and they have a 12-week program specifically for the family. How do you talk to them? What do you say? What don't you say? How do you find resources? And by the way, everything that NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness, does, Kevin, this is my favorite part, is free. They also have peer counseling groups. You can get into a group with other people who battle what you do, or family-to-family peer groups where there's several families who have children who have, schizoaffective disorder or whatever.
Well, good luck in your run for county commissioner. If people want to get a hold of you, what can they do?
Frank at frankking.com.
It's a great domain. Don't be a stranger. You ever come in our parts, we'd love to have you in.
Yeah, let me apologize again, Kevin, for being late. One of the symptoms of depression, by the way, Kevin, is tardiness, unfortunately. And
look, I never mess with comedians. You guys are too smart for me, so no worries.
All right, man. Go Boy Scouts.
All right. Frank King joining us, frankking.com. Coming up next, let's talk about the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, the Iranians, and you. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
For 105 years, Mormon boys have made up the largest block of dues-paying Boy Scout members, but starting in 2020, they'll be gone. The Mormon Church saying it'll be placing its remaining 425,000 boys in a program it's developing. This coming just days after the Boy Scouts welcomed girls and 3 years after gay troop leaders got the green light, something opposed by the church, which teaches that being in a homosexual relationship is a sin. The church giving its increasingly global membership as the reason for severing ties. More than half of its members live outside the U.S. and Canada. Lillian Wu, Fox News.
KIDO Talk Radio, Kevin Miller in the morning here. Do want to remind you, Miller's Mission, May 21st through the 26th. Please join us. We'll be broadcasting live. And I'll be living at the Walmart on Garrity and Franklin Boulevard. It's going to be home. That's right, our home is the Walmart. Really highlighting the plight of homelessness, highlighting the plight of people that need your help. We're asking you to buy, sell, well, not sell, but buy clothes for kids and for the women of City Light. We'll have much more on that coming up. And cash donations, as well as your non-perishable and perishable food items, are tax deductible. You know, in the fall, we have such an enormous amount of profit and nonprofit groups coming together because it's the holidays, it's near Thanksgiving and Christmas, and it seems that everyone, and I mean everyone, is doing a charitable drive, and that's great. In the spring, it's a little different. We're getting ready for the end of the school year. We're getting ready for vacation. We're getting ready to get rid of to get away from our people at work, maybe go to a family reunion we may or may not want to go to, something of that nature, right? Doing something for people that need a hand up, not a handout, is not on our mind. So for the last, I don't know, this is the 6th or 7th year that we've done this, and I think our first campaign actually was in the spring, where we're asking you to help out and clothes for kids. You know, there's nothing more beautiful than a young child. And some of my prayers at night, I pray to God for more adoptions of kids and pets. And when you see your children and think, you know, by the grace of God, I'm so happy that they have a roof and a home and the clothes. There are a lot of kids in the Treasure Valley that don't. So we ask you to consider helping us out coming up the 21st through the 26th. And we thank the Boise Rescue Mission, Team Mazda Subaru, Camping World for helping with that cause, promoting that efforts. Right now, we're talking about the Boy Scouts getting the boot from the LDS Church. We'll talk about that. Get your calls at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. It's 8:27, traffic and weather to get. And Kevin Miller in the morning, though, it gets down to this, that you take a look at the mission of the Boy Scouts, and those of you that have been scouts, our scout leaders, where do you go from here? I mean, the Boy Scouts are now the Scouts. And you had Frank King going, hey, we're going to have a good time and do everything else. And there should be, no difference. But there is a difference. And many years ago, you had a young lady write a book, The War on Boys, right? The War on Boys, that's what we're seeing here. It's not bashing females. It's just that aren't there some things that should be sacred? And now you have the LDS Church saying, look, we don't agree with your stance on gay scout leaders. We don't agree with the scouts being the scouts. We're out. And we're going to create our own scouts. I think that's a good decision. Look, if you're going to change the very nature of Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, are the Girl Scouts going to do the same thing? See, that's what gets me. To me, it's a double standard in our society today. We're supposed to treat people equally, but it's okay to make fun of the man, to belittle the man at the expense of the man. Now, you do it the other way, then you're Harvey Weinstein. I know that's an example that's extreme, but you know what I'm saying. Those of you that are young ladies that have young boys, you're wondering what type of world are they going to grow up in? And I wonder the same. When we've replaced real-life masculinity, testosterone, we vilified those traits, right? I mean, that's how the West was won, and yet instead of celebrating that, we vilify it, which is a shame. We have nothing to be ashamed of being Americans. Again, I can't think of a higher honor for people than to be a scout. And to me, it's a sad day, a tragic day with the Boy Scouts that they're getting rid of the term boy. right? All people are not created equal. As much as I love to play football, or at least I did, playing in the Nerf League is not the same as playing in the NFL. It's a meritocracy. And, you have people that are bigger, smaller, faster, stronger. And that's the same way with the genders. That's why you have a separation there. And then you have studies that people have said that, look, Kevin Miller, that when you have segregated schools where you have all boys schools and all girls schools, which seem to be an anomaly these days, you have the boys and the girls doing better without the integration of sexes because they're focused on what? On doing the right thing, on learning. More on that coming up. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie. KIDO Talk Radio, we go to candidate for Congress, Michael Snyder, joining us now. Mr. Snyder, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. It's great to be with you.
I am happy to have you here. So, what is life like in the final week of the campaign?
Well, it's crazy. I mean, we've got 6 days to go until Election Day. And the good news for, the candidates is still close to 50% of voters don't know who they want to vote for. It's still very much wide open. But I tell you what, Kevin, I've learned some things going through this process. And one of the things I've learned is that money, it really rules the world when it comes to politics. And so we've seen the landscape of this race change, and it's going to be a very interesting finish.
Well, what's your prediction?
Well, at this point, Kevin, a lot of people don't know where the race stands because there haven't been any public polls, independent public polls released in months. And so people, a lot of people go online and they'll say, who's leading this race for Congress? And they'll go back and they'll find polls from months ago, which actually showed Dave Leroy with a lead. But then what happened is Club for Growth came in. And of course, we just found out yesterday they spent $639,000 promoting Russ Fulcher, which is far more than any of the candidates have spent themselves. So basically, you've got a Washington, D.C. PAC, and other Washington, D.C. PACs too, but mainly Club for Growth coming in and literally trying to buy the election, and they have changed the numbers. And so what's happened is we've seen, because Dave Leroy and Russ Fulcher were essentially running very, very similar campaigns, almost mirror images of one another, all that money from Club for Growth has come in, and it's helped Fulcher to surge. I mean, Fulcher's campaign really was floundering, as I've said on the show before, because they weren't doing a great job themselves. But Club for Growth has come in, run radio, television, and they've done a fantastic job. They really have. And so Russ Fulcher's campaign has surged. Dave Leroy has fallen way back. He's completely faded. At this point, he basically has zero chance of catching Russ Fulcher. So at this point, Kevin, at this point, the only other candidate with any sort of upward momentum is our campaign. And at this point, people need to understand, if people don't get on board with Michael Snyder and our campaign, I guarantee you Russ Fulcher will be your next member of Congress.
Michael Snyder joining us here, candidate for Congress. Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. What are the differences between you and all the other candidates for people just tuning in and maybe now they're figuring out who they're going to vote for?
Yeah, well, the first thing that people need to understand is, if people remember Helen Chenoweth, the great conservative tradition, she, set out as she served 3 terms in Congress, did such a great job. If people want somebody like Helen Chenoweth, then they need to look at us. In fact, we have people on our campaign that campaigned for Helen Chenoweth, and we're part of her campaign team. So if people want someone like Helen Chenoweth, really conservative, in fact, even the Coeur d'Alene Press says that I am the most conservative candidate in this race, and it's not even close. So, but, of course, don't take the mainstream media's word for it. I encourage people to go out, do their own comparison, go to michaelsnyderforcongress.com, compare us to the other candidates, particularly someone like Russ Fulcher, and then, and you know what, I've never had anyone come back, Kevin, afterwards and say, you know what, Michael, one of the other guys is actually more conservative than you. So we're conservative. We're also pro-Trump. We've been pro-Trump since the beginning. I proudly voted for Trump in November 2016, and I was the only candidate that was behind Trump from the very beginning. All the others originally wanted to keep Donald Trump out of the White House. They didn't want anything to do with him. And so people are coming down to the end, and really, people are looking at, okay, Michael Snyder, Russ Fulcher. Well, Russ Fulcher was against Donald Trump, but now he says he's for Donald Trump. But of course, then if you go to his website and look at his campaign team, you say, hey, these are the biggest never-Trumpers in the state of Idaho. In fact, one of his key guys actually went to the 2016 Republican convention and led the floor fight against Donald Trump, trying to rebel against him at the convention. And then, of course, Club for Growth. Club for Growth spent over $7 million to keep Donald Trump out of the White House, and now they're pouring money into Russ Fulcher's campaign. And the ironic thing is, Kevin, is now the Club for Growth ads that are promoting Russ Fulcher say, oh, Russ Fulcher's the conservative fighter that Donald Trump needs in Washington, and they're saying good things about him. And, of course, 99% of the population doesn't even know that Club for Growth actually hates Donald Trump and wants to do whatever they can against Donald Trump. And, it's disingenuous on a level that I can't even begin to describe, but because 99% of the population doesn't know, they're getting away with it.
Michael Snyder joining us now. Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. Let's talk a little bit about some breaking news today. The North Korean detainees, the Americans that have been held by the North Koreans, are in fact being released. The president blowing up the Iran deal. As an elected member of Congress, would you support these moves, and what do you make of them?
Oh, absolutely. Let's talk about North Korea first. We're seeing things happen on the Korean Peninsula that most of us never thought we would see, at least in the immediate future, but where we are seeing a real chance for peace. And, people are even talking about President Trump for the Nobel Prize, which I think is a wonderful thing. But if we can see true peace where North Korea could potentially be willing to give up their nuclear program and peaceful relationships between North Korea and South Korea, that is such a wonderful thing. And we just got the news. Prisoners are going to be released, and they're coming home, and President Trump is going to be there to greet them. This is an amazing thing, and I think it says something really positive about President Trump's foreign policy skills, which I know a lot of people were concerned about, but the results over there with North and South Korea are amazing. As far as Iran, I fully support President Trump's decision to get tough and pull out of the Iran deal because, last year I was writing about the fact that Iran is cheating on that deal. It's really one of the best known secrets that people don't really talk about in the international community. They're not abiding with the terms. They're doing stuff off to the side, where they don't think anybody can see. But everyone knows they're cheating, and so President Trump is calling their bluff, saying, hey, you guys aren't abiding by the terms, we're pulling out. And, of course, Iran's getting all upset. They're going crazy. But, when other countries don't live up to their obligations, we've got to get tough, and I fully support President Trump's decision to get tough with them.
Michael Snyder, anything else that you'd like to share with us? How's life on the trail?
Oh, it's a grueling process. Anybody that goes through this kind of a process, I just applaud so greatly because it takes a great toll emotionally, mentally, physically, financially on anyone that runs for office. And so it's been a whirlwind. And you know what? But we couldn't have done this without my amazing team. We've got the best ground game, and that's the reason we have a chance to win, because we're being outspent by Club for Growth tremendously. But the only reason we have an opportunity to potentially win this thing is because we've got the best ground game in the state. Kevin, I know that we're distributing more literature than anyone else. I know that they've even come to your house and distributed literature. We've got more signs up than anyone in the district, and our ground game is the best of any of the campaigns, and I can't thank my people enough for what they've done. And that's why, because we were running a very different campaign than, where, you got the Club for Growth and the Fulcher campaign. They've got the best air war, bar none, because they've got the most money by far. And, other campaigns are running a similar campaign. We're running totally grassroots ground game. We've got the best ground game. And that's why people want to keep Russ Fulcher out of Congress. The only shot is us and our ground game, because at this point, we're the only campaign that has a shot at catching him.
Michael Snyder, we hope you join us for our Unity breakfast before the Unity rally. We'll see you. That's May 17th. We'll see you May 15th, and hopefully we'll talk to you before now in the primary.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Let's go to Russ in Nampa with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Russ.
Good Good morning, sir. Appreciate what you had to say about the Boy Scouts. I've been involved with them for longer than I can remember almost. Remember my experiences as a young man in scout camp and things of that nature, and then I've been involved up here as a leader and have worked with the Scouting for Food drive for many, many long years, and wonder what we're going to do about that when it comes due to this situation. Also wanted to put in a plug for the mail handlers food drive that's coming up this Saturday, where people can put food out at their mailboxes, and the mail handlers will pick it up and take it and get it distributed throughout the communities to help at this time of the year.
You know, and thank you for that Winco bag that I that got yesterday for the mail handlers. I appreciate it.
Well, that's good.
It got you guys got my mailbox, so thank you.
That's a good thing. I haven't seen that come out yet, but I know, having been involved with the Scouting for Food drive, we do that in the fall of the year in November, and the mail handlers do theirs in May, and it really helps out the various food pantries around the area.
We keep hoping to want to work with you in the fall one, so hopefully you'll consider us this time around.
I will do. I'll keep you very well in mind. Thank you so much.
Russ, thanks to the mail handlers and the scouts. Thank you, sir.
You bet.
All right. I guess this would be the counter to Michael Snyder. I'm hearing myself in the background. It's Tea Party Bob, publisher of the Gem State Patriot. I guess this is point counterpoint. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Miller. How are you today? You certainly know me very well, don't you?
Well, we've got Terry from State College, Pennsylvania in studio. He just kind of swung by, and, the gang's all here today.
Oh, that's wonderful. Let me first say that Michael Snyder is no Helen Chenoweth. And if that liberal rag Coeur d'Alene press says that he is, you can almost bet that it's a lie. Snyder's attacking everyone and anything that he can because he's losing the race and is an inexperienced wannabe that is going nowhere fast, and we should thank God for that. I wanted to talk about something Hank said this morning, his comments this morning about Little and the Prosperity Fund. Not many people know that Brad Little used to be the chairman of the IACI many years ago, and most voters don't know much about the organization, but that's why I'm here. IACI is made up of the elite businessmen and women of Idaho. These are the people who do much of the lobbying and the reason that we have so much cronyism on our state. They are well-heeled when it comes to money, but they are always trying to game the political arena to make sure that people elected to the legislature are the ones that are going to do their bidding. It's important to know that most every health insurance executive has a seat at the executive table at IACI, along with the Roundup chemical monsters from Monsanto. If people hear the Prosperity Fund is supporting someone for the legislative office, it should immediately sound an alarm that these crony business leaders are only out for themselves and don't care one iota about the citizens of Idaho. They brought us the state health care exchange and are responsible for the high insurance premiums and high deductibles we currently have. Need I say more? They will use every dirty trick in a book to get their candidates elected so that they will forever be indebted to them. If we are going to drain the swamp in Idaho, we need to get the crony politicians controlled by IACI out of office. So if you hear someone that is being supported by IACI or the Prosperity Fund, you need to cross them off your list before going to the voting booth. I believe IACI actually stands for the Idaho Association of Cronyism and Influence. I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that.
All right, Tea Party Bob, we appreciate you.
Thank you very much, my friend. Have a good day.
All right, Tea Party Bob. Holly in Caldwell with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Hello, Holly.
Hi, Kevin. I also want to say I really appreciate everything that the Gem State Patriot says, and I'm glad he gave the information about IACI. I fully support Russ Fulcher. I think Snyder is desperate, and I am also in support of who he endorses, which is Christy Zito in District 23. Her opponent did have a fundraiser in Boise with IACI. He's endorsed by some of the more liberal papers in the state, and he even in the Magic Valley Times. her opponent said that he is more of a moderate. Christy Zito has the proven conservative record in District 23, and that would be Owyhee, Elmore, and parts of Twin Falls County. And I just invite voters out to keep her fighting for the Constitution and the Second Amendment. It is important. Go to her website, ChristyZito.com.
You know, when are you ever going to just have a conversation with us? You're always on the talking points.
Well, ask me a question.
Ask you a question. What do you make of the Boy Scouts and the LDS Church?
You know, I happen to be LDS, and I'm applauding that decision. I think that we should have left that organization a long time ago, and I'm applauding that they're going to have a more detailed program for both men and women, young men and young women around the world, and not just in the United States. I think it's going to be a really good thing.
All right. I thought of you the other night. I watched that the PBS did a special on the Malheur County thing.
Oh yes,
that was
yes.
Interesting.
I have to watch that again. I grew up in Harney County, and
that was
all of those land issues and things are important.
It's called Inside the Lens or Inside Lenses or something. But it was a fascinating documentary, really, without narration. So,
if people want to look into more of the land issues, the Hage family, who has been fighting for their rights in Nevada, the Ninth Circuit just dropped their case.
There we go again. We're trying to have a conversation, and here Holly's always on point. Everybody,
it's a conversation. It's about the land rights. It's important.
No, for us, the show is based on conversation. I think you're rivaling Tea Party Bob with being on point all the time.
Well, I guess you're right. I guess if you feel passionately about things and about certain candidates who really are fighting for we the people in the legislature, it's important. So sorry about that.
No, nothing to be sorry about. Holly, take care of yourself.
Have a great day. Thanks.
Thank you. Gary in Boise with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Gary.
Yeah, good morning. Hey, I was just listening to your show, and I happened to hear Tea Party Bob. It's well known that Tea Party Bob is a culture supporter heavily, and around Labrador. But I really take exception to his comments about Michael Snyder. I mean, this thing about Club for Growth, everything that Michael was stating is the truth, and Tea Party Bob knows this. Club for Growth's agenda only gives money to those that align themselves with the same views. So it only goes without saying that Fulcher is aligning himself with Club for Growth and what they believe in. And Michael was correct. Club for Growth has spent millions on negative ads against President Trump. And, this list of information, anybody can go research this on the Internet. It's all out there. They don't need to read about what Club for Growth says about themselves, but you can go anywhere else and read about this information. But they're pro-amnesty, pro-Obamacare, pro-TPP, pro-H-121 visa. They're trying to control the congressional district, these special interests like Club for Growth. And it's right. It's in the Idaho Press Tribune. It's on the Internet. They're talking about the 639 or 40,000 that Fulcher's gotten. And then he says that all these things about, I'm pro-Trump and I'm for Trump and I'm going to help with his agenda. That's bunk.
Gary, great call. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. St. Ignatius School will be our last school until June. We so appreciate them for allowing us to get a firsthand look of what it's like to be in a brand new school. So we'll be doing that. Of course, Glenn Beck, Dave Ramsey, Sean Hannity, and Lars Larson throughout the day. Keep KIDO Talk Radio with you at any time. And if you're jonesing for more KIDO Talk Radio, you can always go to the App Store or Google Plus and download the free, and I mean the free KIDO Talk Radio app. It's wonderful. It's exciting. When there's something breaking, you can check something out. If we want to send you some propaganda, it goes right to your phone. Really, what's better than that? Thankfully, we appreciate you listening to our great show. Ray Amaya, great job as always. And don't forget, KIDO Talk Radio is your home for Fox News on the radio. May God bless you and your family. Keep the faith.